varnanam artha sanghanam varnanam artha sanghanam rasanam chandasamapi varnanam artha sanghanam.
The science of spirituality, or the spirituality of science. Is this just a smart interplay of words, or does it lead to the doing away of duality and helping us understand the concept of oneness? Let's talk about all this and a lot more in our show today. Please welcome on our program Dr. Krishna Kant Shukla, who is a physicist, a musician and a spiritual ecologist. Krishna ji, welcome to our program. स्वागत है आपका.
योगी ओ योगी युगन युगन हम योगी सब ही ठोर जमात हमारी जमात सब ही ठोर जमात हमारी जमात सब ही ठोर पर मेला मेला मेला.
एक experiential नजरिए से you have experienced the link between science and spirituality. Share that experience with us.
Okay. When I was doing my PhD in US in theoretical physics, I was often amazed by how the latest discoveries in physics, in modern physics, seem to be mirroring, the ancient science of Vedanta and what the Upanishads are saying. And I used to wonder whether this is just a happy coincidence or is there, a reason behind it. Then recently, about last year, now that we have, Google, I started researching and I found that piece of puzzle that I was looking for. The question that I had in my mind that I was researching was, why does modern physics, which is essentially so far removed, it seems on the surface, so far removed for anything that has to do with religion or spirituality. In fact, in many ways it stands totally opposite to that. Why is it mirroring, the concepts of Vedanta and some of the scriptures of this country? Then I discovered something very interesting. One of the founding fathers of modern physics was this German gentleman called Werner Heisenberg, famous for the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And so it was just a handful of these people, mostly Germans, Werner Heisenberg, Wolfgang Pauli, and Erwin Schrödinger, and Paul Dirac, and Sommerfeld, and Bohr. These are the people who are responsible for creating modern physics and quantum mechanics. So they had a favorite hobby. Whenever they were not doing physics, they were studying the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedanta. Whenever they would come home, they would have meetings because they had been reading Schopenhauer, who had translated some of the Upanishads, and they were really excited. It was a very exciting time in physics, in the early part of last century, because almost every day some new physics was being discovered and the old physics was being thrown in the waste paper basket. They were creating literally on a daily basis. So Werner Heisenberg was very much intrigued with Vedanta, and he was looking for the answers to certain questions which were really troubling him, because modern physics, as now even the school children know, that you think of electrons, protons and neutrons, and then you think of what makes those up. Then you look at subatomic particles, you look at quarks and gluons and neutrinos, and then you look at the components of that. So Werner Heisenberg was wondering, where did this stop? And he was actually posing a question: is there really such a thing as matter? what are we seeking? Because we keep discovering these particles which we think are the fundamental building blocks of nature, of creation, and then something happens and then we discover they are also made of something else. In fact, he saw the logical absurdity of this reductionist approach, and he had been in correspondence with Rabindranath Tagore in India, in Shanti Niketan. Eventually in 1929, Werner Heisenberg went and spent about 15 days with Rabindranath Tagore. He was really intrigued and he wanted to discuss Vedanta and see if Vedanta has some of the answers that he is seeking.
Right.
And ultimately, Rabindranath Tagore ji, told him about Vivek Chudamani and some of the works of Adi Shankara, and his questions were satisfied. And then he came home to Germany, and that was when he invented and worked on and invented the famous Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which revolutionized all of physics because it brought in especially the so-called mystical element, the fact that you cannot separate the observer from what is being observed. So this answered my question. I was wondering how come physics mirrors Vedanta, and the answer was these early German pioneers, they seeded the physics with the Vedantic concepts, of consciousness and the lack of differentiation between the subject and observer.
But the challenge, Krishnaji, today is that earlier, if you were trying to understand science through the context of spirituality,
Yes.
now we are trying to understand spirituality through the context of science.
It's a challenge. The main thing is that the main hurdle in trying to understand spiritual concepts through the framework of science is that science is basically a theology of matter. There is no room in science for the spirituality deals with the concepts of divinity and God and consciousness, sacredness, etc. These are very subjective ideas.
I think also subjective, and it's also about uncertainty. So
Yes.
there is an uncertainty in how we understand it, though the final result is fairly certain. So I think that concept of uncertainty moving into physics, again you have to translate it into something which is more concrete to be able to understand. And the transition from something which is intangible
Yes.
to tangible, we've not been able to bridge that in our heads, that how tangible and intangible are so brilliantly interlinked.
Yes, yes. Actually, one of the ways of becoming mystical in the modern world is to go deep into physics, because when you really understand physics and go to the boundary, then you realize how tenuous all these concepts of physics are. On the surface, it seems like science is objective and deals with hard facts, and whereas religion and spirituality is all sort of experiential and cannot be parameterized, etc.
Right.
But physics actually is in the same category. In fact, the surprising thing for me was to see that science and religion actually are not very different. In fact, physics, which is at the heart of modern science, is actually a type of religion itself, because it relies heavily on faith. The element of faith plays a very important role,
Right.
So
That's absolutely true.
yeah.
And somehow also for you, in your personal experience, you've linked your element of faith has come from music, and that's how it helps you
Yes.
transcend one and maybe blur the boundaries or remove the boundaries between the two.
Yes. Yeah.
So what was it that, how was it that music came to play such an important part in your life?
Music, in a way, when you're trying to understand or interact with the world, one often comes across situations where you cannot really express it in words, and then poetry, painting, and the arts are they become very relevant, and then sometimes even words fail, especially in the world of feelings, and this is where science has to step down, because um, how do you, we all know that we are thinking and feeling beings, but how do you represent them scientifically? There is no way. In fact, there is no proof. If you use the scientific measures, there is no proof that such things as thoughts and feelings even exist, but they exist.
And they communicate with a different language, and I think science doesn't have that language.
Right. Science has still a long way to go. In fact, very interesting that Einstein, not too long before he died, he was being interviewed. I think it was by Der Spiegel magazine, and they asked him a very interesting question. They said, do you feel that, like some of the other physicists, do you feel that everything that we need to learn has been already discovered now that quantum mechanics is there and it seems to explain everything? Do you think there's still something left to be discovered, or we've discovered everything? And he gave a very interesting answer. He said, oh, I think there is still a lot to be discovered. There's still a lot of mystery to be uncovered. But he said the scientist of the future would have to be a man of enlarged perception, which I thought was very interesting, because this is the whole point of view of yoga and spirituality and meditation, etc. All these spiritual disciplines, is to be a person of enlarged perception. A yogi can hear more, has more clarity of mind, so he can perceive. He's a better perceiver than the average person, because he has cleaned up his instruments of perception.
Right.
So in many ways, those links are, physics itself, if you are following it, without any agenda, and if you are really, to me, science is basically a search for the truth, a fearless search for the truth. That this is my own personal definition of science, and this is also the aim of the authentic spiritual traditions of the world.
Actually, duality is to help you understand oneness.
हम सब माय, हम सब माय, सब हैं हम माय, हम हैं बहुरी अकेला अवधूता, युग ना युगन हम योगी.
When you say something is a particle and a wave, now a particle is something totally localized in space. We say that it has 0 dimensions. It's totally, localized here. But a wave is spread out over the whole universe, So right here you see, the integration of the infinite. Now how this mirrors Vedanta, because in the Rig Veda and Isha Upanishad, there is a very beautiful shloka. It goes, Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, which has a beautiful meaning. It says that, with a capital T, the ultimate reality, that is infinite and complete. This, the microcosm, the individualized entity, is also infinite and complete. From infinity comes infinity, and if from infinity you subtract infinity, what remains is still infinite. So, for example, a particle of air is still air, a particle of water is still water, a particle of infinity is still infinity. For example, if you take the set of natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's an infinite set. Now, if from this infinite set you subtract the set of odd numbers, which is again an infinite set, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, odd numbers, it's an infinite set. So from the set of natural numbers you take out all the odd numbers. So from infinity you subtract infinity. What remains is the set of even numbers, which is again infinite. So according to this worldview, every part, even a little particle of sand, contains somehow information about the whole. It was William Blake, I think he intuited this when he's, his famous poem, when he said, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand.
That means infinity is the true nature.
Yes. So we are all, this has far-reaching implications. We are all infinite beings. We don't, our greatest limitations are those that we impose on ourselves, you know.
Because we can't see.
We can't see, and we don't see our real nature. We see what we are told by parents and authority figures in society, etc.
Krishnaji, when we talk of music, music for many of us
Yes.
is about rhythm and melody
Yes.
and soothing, anything which is soothing to the ear and helps us relax.
Yes.
But actually you're saying that somewhere the connect is deeper with devotional music.
Yes.
That has a different sensibility.
Uh-huh.
Share that with us.
Yes, this comes from many angles. In the scriptures in India, there is a beautiful Mahavakya, a statement. It says, Swar Mata Leh Pita. The melody is the mother and the rhythm is the father, you know. And, music, my guru, Baba Ali Akbar Khan, with whom I studied in California, very casually in one of the classes, he said, बेटे ये जो सारे गामा पाधा नी है ये महामंत्र है, and he said all the scriptures of the world are there, you know, embedded in this mantra, in the sare gama pada ni. So it's actually very, very deep culturally. In today's culture, in the modern culture, music is for entertainment, for fun, you know. It's a good hobby.
Appeals to the senses.
Appeals
also.
to the senses,
Right.
yes. But the fact that it can actually, when you engage with it seriously, it can actually lead you to a realization of yourself.
काची छे काया थारी काची छे काया थारी झुटरी से माया राम काची छे काया थारी काची छे काया थारी झुटरी से माया राम झुटरा सा लेख लिखाया राम राम.
We're going to go in for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about your journey vis-a-vis taking devotional music to a larger group, helping people understand the true power of music, devotion, science
Yes.
and spirituality all together.
Yes.
And of course some more sharings and learnings on, Kabir. Kabir is a huge, beautiful, wonderful figure for
Yes.
many of us. People also say that a lot of what he's written is about the coming together of a lot of thoughts, and
Yes.
Kabir is also a vision or an idea, not a person.
Yes.
I think we'll talk about all that and a lot more, but right now we take a short break.
कहता कबीर सुनो भाई साधो नाही न कोई इच्छा 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 अपने ही मढ़ी में अपने ही मढ़ी में आप में डोलूं डोलूं खेलूं सहज स्व इच्छा अवधूता युग न युगन हम युग.
Welcome back. We are still in conversation with Dr. Krishna Kant Shukla. Krishna ji, devotional music occupies a very special place in your heart, and how you take it to the rest of the world also.
Actually, my understanding is that not too long ago, almost all music in India was devotional in nature, Now, I was recently in 2011, the same institution, Hardwick College in upstate New York in the US, where I used to teach astronomy 20 years ago. They called me to teach a course on the devotional music of North India. This was the title of the course. And it was an interesting project. It was a challenge, and because they are American students and they want to study a course on the devotional music of North India. And so I decided that instead of making it, and along with, of course, the person who invited me, Sandy Huntington, he is the head of the religious studies department there. It was actually his idea that instead of making it into a scholarly course, where they read about Kabir and Tyagaraja and Tulsidas, write papers on it, why not bring the devotional music into the classroom and teach these American students to sing some of these songs, with the full understanding of their meaning, because it's very rich material. It has a lot of, philosophy, spirituality. There is science also in it, In the songs of Kabir and Gorakh, there is a, there's a whole culture, there's a whole worldview, there's anthropology, there's philosophy, there's history, there's linguistics, there's so much. It's very rich material,
Which is also infinity, as you said, the
exactly,
whole thing.
yeah. So it was a challenge because my students, I had a class of about 13 students, and none of them were music majors. They were from the religious studies department and philosophy department, some from the English department, and 1 or 2 from management. So it was a challenge to teach them firstly to sing in tune, then to sing these songs of Kabir and Gorakh with proper pronunciation, enunciation, and full understanding of the meaning, because the bhava, the feeling, doesn't come until you understand the meaning.
True.
So we worked, and to the credit of Sandy Huntington and the students, they worked really hard, and the result, finally in the last class, I had a little digital recorder. I recorded my students singing this song. This song that these students were singing, the words are Hum Pardes, is by Kabir. Hum Pardesi Panchi Baba, Ani Desara Nahi, Ani Desara Log Acheta, Pal Pal Parle Jai. I am a bird from a foreign land. I do not belong to this land. In this land, people are asleep, unconscious, and each moment is a cosmic dissolution. Pralay, Parpal, Palpal, Parle Jai, which is a beautiful idea, because each instant this universe is dissolving, never to return. This instant which we just lost will never come back. So Pralay is going on at every second. And then the next verse is Mukh bin gaan, pag bin chalna, bina pankh udi jaye, bina bharat ki surat hamari, anhad mein ram jaye. The land where I am from, I could sing without a mouth, I could walk without feet, I could fly without wings. I had a shape without form. My meditation was formless, and I always abided in the cosmic unstruck melody in the heart. So these songs are very beautiful and very deep. इसी तरह से गोरखनाथ जी का भी एक गाना उन्होंने सीखा, सिद्ध भजो ओमकार अवधु काया मंजन सार. इसकी भी ऑडियो रिकॉर्डिंग है. O Siddhas, chant Omkar, for it is the essence of purification of the 7 sheaths of the human body, the physical, the mental, the emotional, the psychological, the pranic, the spiritual, and the blissful. All the 7 sheaths of the human body are purified by chanting Omkar. Siddha Bhajo Omkar Avadhu Kaya Manjan Sar, Shikar Bhitar Naad Baje, Atma Din Rain Jage, Naad Sun Sun Lagi Dori, Atma Din Rain Bauri. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you say the Om or the Omkar,
Yes.
then I think the vibrations that emanate, and science is now understanding that everything, what we see, what we feel, what we hear, is all to do with vibrations.
Yes.
And that's when how they beautifully meld together to say, it's about sound or vibrations
Yes.
being understood as science
Yes.
or being believed as faith.
They talk about sound being waves of compression and rarefaction in the air. They are kind of like pressure waves, So sound cannot exist outside a medium that has to vibrate. But according to the Indian scriptures, sound has 3 other levels. What physics talks about is the crudest level of sound. It's called Vaikhari, and below that there is Para, Paschyanti, and Madhyama. It's very interesting. For example, we have all experienced intuitive experiences. Like
True.
sometimes you're thinking of your daughter, very intensely, and you receive a phone call from her, or sometimes you're walking on the street and you feel that somebody is, something is going on, and you turn around and your friend is waving at you. So you just pass it off as a coincidence. Because according to the science, the Indian spiritual science, this is the science of sound. The sound in the form of Pashyanti, it traveled from you to your daughter wherever she was. That's how she was able to call you back.
That means we as human beings
Yeah.
are prepared or equipped to receive it, but how well trained or sensitized we are
Yes.
to be able to understand, and that is yoga.
According to yogis, the pineal gland, which is in the center of the brain, is the organ of thought transference and thought reception. It is the organ of telepathy. Now, when I talked to the doctors about this, modern medical doctors, they said, not too long ago, they said it's a vestigial organ. It has no function. We just use it as a marker. It gets calcified as we beyond
Age.
our juvenile years. It gets calcified. So if there's a brain injury, then it shows up as a calcium marker in the X-ray. So we know if the brain has shifted. So I began to think that something is seriously wrong. Why would nature, create a vestigial organ that has no use? Right in the center of our brain, which is like a very important point. My mother is a doctor, and so she had told us that when she was very young, when she was a little girl, she was about 10 or 11, she remembers her grandfather used to go to the edge of the forest on every Nag Panchami, and he used to call the snakes. He used to make a particular sound, and he would call the snakes. And she said that the snakes would come out, sometimes 5 or 6 from the forest. Then when I was studying biology in modern school, New Delhi, our biology teacher told us that snakes are deaf. They don't have any ears. So then I said, when I went for summer vacations to visit my mother, I said, are you sure you saw this? Because I know my mother, she never jokes, and she never lies. I said, you saw this with your own eyes? So she said, yes, many times. I said, but modern biology says that snakes cannot hear. So she just shrugged her shoulders. Then I found the answer in a yogic text. And actually, when they talk about the pineal gland, because snakes have a very well developed pineal gland. Snakes and cats and human babies have a very well developed pineal glands. All of them are known for their intuition. Young children are very intuitive.
Very true.
Because nature has given them that,
Right.
for survival. They need to know, who's right, who's wrong. And same thing with snakes. In many different cultures, there are folk tales about snakes hypnotizing their prey, And I actually tested this when I was living in Northern California. In San Rafael, when I was studying music with Baba Ali Akbar Khan, I was walking in the forest in the foothills of Mount Tamalpais. I saw a rattlesnake who was sunning himself on the path. So I sat down about 8 feet from him, and I started just talking to him with my thoughts, just in my mind. I said, you are such a beautiful creature of God. You are so beautiful, your eyes are shining, your skin is shining, and you're so graceful. And it would mean a lot to me if you would be my friend, if you would, so anyway, he turned around and went back. Next week when I came there and I called him with my mind, I said, my friend the snake, where are you? He came out. And then third week, the same thing. So then I went and told a friend of mine, I said, look, I made friends with the snake and nobody's going to believe me. They think I'm crazy. So somebody has to witness this, otherwise they'll think that I'm making this up. So she came with me, and she said on the way, she said, look, maybe the snake lives somewhere else on the other edge of maybe he just lives there and he goes in and out. So it's good if you call him from some other place.
Okay.
I said, that makes sense. So then I went there and I called him. It took him 15 minutes, but he came out, So I'm giving this as an example that there is still a lot that needs to be discovered about life, about the universe, about ourselves. And science, I'm a scientist and I have a lot of respect for science, but to think that science in its present form has all the answers, and anything that lies outside the boundaries of science is all superstition, and it's all, obscuranticism. I don't subscribe to that view.
Every day, old myths are being broken.
Yeah.
New studies are coming
Yeah.
forward to actually help us believe somewhere which we knew.
Yes.
So what is that somewhere which we knew, and how? I think these are very exciting times, especially when there's such a greater openness in
Yes.
people to believe and say, okay, let's see, let's understand differences, and I think that is also very exciting.
Yes. Yeah. Traditional knowledge, something that has been people have been following for thousands of years. I don't feel that I have the that it's good to dismiss it. A lot of people, as a result of modern school and college education, they tend to dismiss this. What are you really saying? You're really saying that you are smarter than these 100,000 generations that came before you. There are millions of examples. Eating with hands, it's considered unhygienic. People in village India, even today, they eat with their hands. Now Harvard Medical School is saying that there are brain cells at the tips of the fingers, and the process of digestion actually begins with the fingers. When you touch the food, signals go directly from your fingers to your liver and etc. So many of these practices and beliefs and faiths of traditional societies, when you really have an open mind, and when you're not conditioned by modern education to look down on all these things, then you find that they're actually very scientific.
Moving back to role models, inspirational figures, you have a very, very special relationship with Pandit Kumar Gandharva. Share that with us.
Yes, when I was studying physics first in St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and then I was doing my PhD in University of Buffalo, I had met Pandit Kumar Gandharva only once in Kamani Auditorium in 1979. He gave a beautiful performance, and I was completely,
Bowled over.
Yeah, bowled over completely.
Okay.
So I had a deep love for his music, and especially his Nirguna Bhajans. He did this very interesting and revolutionary thing of bringing, Nirguna Bhajans to the classical stage. Basically, Kumarji's music had been tugging at my soul, and so I wrote a letter to him on the advice of my mother. She said, well, if you love his music so much, why don't you write to him? Beautiful advice. I have to thank my mother for that. So I wrote a long letter to him from America, from Buffalo, and I wasn't expecting a reply. He's such a big man. But then on Guru Purnima in 1989, I called him, and I said, this is who I am. So he said, oh yes, I got your letter, very nice, thank you. Because in that letter I had told him that when I finish my PhD, I want to come and study music with you, even though I don't have any of the qualifications. But using the language of David Copperfield, without a scrap of courage, but with a great deal of desperation. I had written to him, I said that it would mean a lot to me, even if I can study with you for a month, it would mean the world to me. So in that crucial phone conversation, he said, yes, okay, I have read your letter, very good. You come, there is a room here, you can come and stay and you can study with me. So I said, today is Guru Purnima, I consider myself your student and I'm touching your feet. He said, yes, okay, my blessings to you. And so it was all set up, But then in 1991, when I just finished my PhD and I was talking to the travel agents to go to India, I found out that Kumarji had left his body, So then I was shattered. Then for a couple of years I went and studied music with Baba Ali Akbar Khan. Then I went to India and I actually went to the village of Kumarji, Sulebhami in Karnataka. And there's a small Shiva temple where as a child and as a young man he used to practice his music. So I took the soil from there, put it in a little box, brought it to my home in Varanasi, and then I started doing the ecology sadhana. I started listening to all the tapes of Kumarji, deconstructing his music, trying to understand it intellectually and in other ways, and trying to see what I could learn from it. So I sort of remained his disciple, and I appealed to his his soul to guide me, which he did.
अवधूता 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 गगना गगना गगन घटा गहरानी रे अवधूता पश्चिम दिशा से उलटी बादली पश्चिम दिशा से उलटी बादली रुमझुम बरसे मेहा रुमझुम बरसे मेहा उठो ज्ञानी खेत संभालो उठो ज्ञानी खेत संभालो बहन से रहेगा पानी अवधूता अवधूता
Welcome back. We are still in conversation with Dr. Krishna Kant Shukla. कृष्णा जी,
जी
कबीर जो कहते हैं उनकी आई थिंक उनकी कथनी जो है which transcends universes, transcends generations, and I think is so brilliantly put that it connects with your body, mind and soul.
जी
उसका भी एक बहुत डीप लिंक है आपके साथ, और म्यूजिक के साथ बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कहानियाँ भी हैं जो आपके जीवन में घटी हैं.
जी
तो इस थोड़ी सी यात्रा को हमारे अपने साथ ले जाइए.
ज़्यादातर जो निर्गुण भजन हैं ये एक्चुअली लिविंग ऑरल ट्रेडिशन है. दो लिविंग ऑरल ट्रेडिशंस जिनके बारे में मैं जानता हूँ, और भी होंगे. एक तो गोरखनाथ जी का ट्रेडिशन है. ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है क्योंकि ये गोरखनाथ जी ने जो भजन लिखे थे ये ऑलमोस्ट 100% जो मटेरियल है वो डीप एजोटेरिक स्पिरिचुअल ट्रुथ्स एंड स्पिरिचुअल प्रैक्टिस के ऊपर है, योग के ऊपर, कुंडलिनी योग के ऊपर, चक्रों के ऊपर. तो ये बहुत ही फैसिनेटिंग है. लेकिन इसको जो हम लोगों के यहाँ पे जो संत समाज है, जो साधु लोग हैं, जो आपको हिमालय की गुफाओं में मिलेंगे, इन लोगों ने इन भजनों को जिंदा रखा है 1400 साल तक. अभी तक ये लिविंग ऑरल ट्रेडिशन है. तो कुछ तो ये हमने इन लोगों को रिकॉर्ड किया है, और जिन लोगों से कुमार जी ने सीखा था उनको भी जाके मैंने रिकॉर्ड किया. और कबीर जी का 600 साल पुराना ऑरल ट्रेडिशन है. और ये भी कबीर जी, क्योंकि वो एक साधु तो थे ही, लेकिन वो सिर्फ साधु नहीं थे, वो एक गृहस्थ भी थे. उनके वाइफ थे, उनकी फैमिली थी, और वो जो है एक जुलाहा थे. तो उन्होंने बहुत सारे भजन उनके जो हैं, जो कॉम्पोजिशंस हैं, वो सामाजिक दे आर सोशल कॉमेंट्रीज ऑन वेरी रेवोल्यूशनरी सोशल कॉमेंट्रीज, तो जो कि गोरखनाथ जी के भजनों में नहीं है. तो इसलिए कबीर जी का एक टोटल अगर उनके जो सोशल पद हैं और जो उनके आध्यात्मिक पद हैं इनको ले लिया जाए तो काफ़ी लार्ज उनका. एक्चुअली देयर आर अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 2000 सॉन्ग्स देयर आर एट्रीब्यूटेड टू कबीर.
ओके.
तो एक बार क्या हुआ कि सन 2000 की बात है, जो भारत सरकार का रेल मंत्रालय है वो कबीर जी की 600th बर्थ एनिवर्सरी सन 2000 में थी, उसको सेलिब्रेट कर रहा था. तो उसके लिए उन्होंने बनारस में, जहाँ कबीर जी रहते थे, उनके अडॉप्टेड पेरेंट्स थे नीरू और नीमा, वहाँ पे वो रहते थे और वहीं पे अपना जो है वो वीविंग और करते थे. तो अपने फैमिली के साथ रहते थे. तो वहाँ पे इस समय कबीर चौरा एक मठ है, और कबीर जी का उनका जो है वो ताना भरनी, उनके इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स और वो सब रखे हुए हैं वहाँ पे. तो उस लोकेशन पे रेल मंत्रालय ने एक प्रोग्राम का आयोजन किया था, और वो मेरा ही वहाँ पे प्रोग्राम था कबीर के भजनों का. तो मेरे साथ मन्नू लाल मिश्र जी तबला बजाने वाले थे, और और जब प्रोग्राम समय होने का समय हो गया तो किसी कारण से उनको वो नहीं आए, उनको देर हो गई थी और सारे ऑडियंस सब बैठे हुए थे, बड़े बड़े लोग बैठे हुए थे, दूरदर्शन भी था उस समय, लखनऊ दूरदर्शन। इसके पहले मैं बता दूं कि मेरा घर जो है वो इस बनारस में मेरा घर है, तो इस लोकेशन जहाँ ये प्रोग्राम हो रहा था उससे 12 किलोमीटर दूर है, और मेरे घर में जहाँ मैं प्रैक्टिस करता हूँ, रियाज़ करता हूँ, उसके पीछे एक आंवले का पेड़ है, और वहाँ अक्सर एक कोयल आके बैठ जाती है जो कि मेरे साथ गाती है। जब भी मैं प्रैक्टिस करता हूँ तो वो कोयल पता नहीं कहाँ से आती है और मेरे साथ गाती है, मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगता है। अब ये 12 किलोमीटर दूर ये प्रोग्राम हो रहा था, तो जब मैंने अनाउंस किया कि मेरे साथ कोई गाने वाला नहीं है, तो ये कोयल आके बैठ गई वहाँ पे, और वो जितने देर मेरा प्रोग्राम हुआ, बाद में मनूलाल मिश्र जी पहले गाने के बाद वो भी आ गए, लेकिन वो कोयल गाती रही। तो ये भी रिकॉर्ड हो गया है वो दूरदर्शन में, और इसको एक्चुअली वो लोग हर साल इसकी क्लिप दिखाते हैं जब कबीर की जयंती होती है। तो इस तरह से ऐसे भी 2-3 मेरे एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं जिससे कि ये मुझे लगा कि ये संगीत जो है ये ख़ास तौर से ये जो संतों का जो संगीत है ये प्रकृति से एकदम जोड़ देता है, नेचर से। यू कैन नॉट नॉट बी अ नेचर लवर एंड हैव अ डीप कनेक्शन विद नेचर। इंडियन क्लासिकल म्यूजिक, in particular Indian devotional music, will connect you totally with nature, you know.
Right.
जैसे कि हमने ये हार्टविक कॉलेज यहाँ पे कॉन्सर्ट दिया था 2003 में एक चैपल में। तो वो हार्टविक कॉलेज एक पहाड़ पे है, इट्स अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल प्लेस, कैटस्किल माउंटेन्स में है, जहाँ मैं एस्ट्रोनॉमी पढ़ाता था 1991 में। तो वहाँ मैं जब मैं प्रोग्राम कर रहा था तो मेरे पीछे एक खिड़की थी, और मैंने एक भजन गाया कबीर जी का, जो पूरा भजन जो है वो एक हिरण को एड्रेस्ड है। हिरणा समझ बूझ बन चरना, एक बन चरना, दूजे बन चरना, तीजे बन पग नहीं धरना, तीजे बन 5 पारधी, उनके नज़र नहीं पड़ना, तोहे मार तेरो मांस बिकावे, तेरे खाल का करेंगे बिछौना। ये हिरण, क्योंकि हिरण हमारी जो मासूमियत है, हमारे अंदर जो बचपना है, जो हमारी इनोसेंस है, जो हमारी प्योरिटी है, जो हमारा जीव है, जो हमारा सोल है, उन सब का प्रतीक है हिरण। बड़ा इनोसेंट होता है, लेकिन वो इधर उधर जाके क्यूरियोसिटी से वो चला जाता है एंड इट गेट्स इनटू ट्रबल। वो तो 5 पारदी, तीजे बन में मतलब कि तुम 3 जो फॉरेस्ट हैं उसमें तुम घूम सकते हो, जो डीप मेडिटेटिव वाली स्टेट है, जो ड्रीम स्टेट है। लेकिन जो तीसरा बन है, जो ये वेकिंग वर्ल्ड है, जो ये दुनिया है, ये बड़ी ख़तरनाक जगह है। यहाँ पे बहुत केयरफुल रहना, वो जीव को कह रहे हैं हिरना, क्योंकि 5 पारदी, 5 हंटर्स, 5 ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ द सेंसेस, यू नो, विच पुल अस आउट ऑफ आवर सेल्व्स। हमको ये जो एक फीलिंग है ना कि हमारी जो फुलफिलमेंट है, ब्लिस है, एन्जॉयमेंट है, वो सब बाहर मिलेगा हमको, यू नो, अंदर नहीं है। तो हम लोगों को एक्सट्रोवर्टेड बना देता है। तो कितना सुंदर ये कबीर जी ने लिखा है। तो जब ये मैं भजन में गा रहा था वहाँ पे, बाद में ऑडियंस में जो बैठे थे वो उठ के आए बड़ा एक्साइटेड होके, 10-15 लोग आए। उन्होंने कहा, व्हेन यू स्टार्टेड सिंगिंग दिस सॉन्ग अबाउट द डियर, ओ डियर ग्रेज कॉशियसली द फॉरेस्ट, यू नो, एक एक्चुअल डियर आ गया और उसने वो खिड़की से अपना सर अंदर डाल के वो पूरा भजन हमारा सुना। ये पूरी ऑडियंस ने देखा उसको। एंड व्हेन आई फिनिश्ड दिस सॉन्ग इट वेंट अवे। तो इस तरह के
जस्ट कृष्ण जी हम दिस फॉर अस, दिस सॉन्ग, इट विल बी लवली टू लिसन।
हिरना 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 हिरना, हिरना समझ बूझ बन चरना, हिरना हिरना, एक बन चरना, एक बन चरना, दूजे बन चरना, तीजे बन पग नहीं धरना, हिरना हीरना।
बहुत ही आपका एक फरिश्तों का रिश्ता है with the Ganga, and it is so devotional, and you see it is beyond, much beyond a river. बनारस के आप रहने वाले हैं
जी।
तो इस रिश्ते के बारे में बताइए।
गंगा के बारे में अब देखिए, साइंस की एजुकेशन से जो मुझे सीखने को मिला तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें साफ़ हो गई, जो कि लोग भावात्मक तो हैं, गंगा माँ है, लेकिन जो बेसिक चीज़ें हैं लोगों को नहीं समझ में आ रही हैं। तो गंगा अपने आप को साफ़ कर लेती है, लेकिन जब उस पानी में आप DDT एंड क्रोमियम कंपाउंड्स जो कानपुर की टैनरी से जा रही हैं फ्लो करके, और जो मॉडर्न एग्रीकल्चर है, जो इंडस्ट्रियल एग्रीकल्चर है, जिसमें DDT, पॉलीक्लोरोबाइफिनाइल्स, मर्करी, डाइऑक्सिन, लेड कंपाउंड्स, ऑर्गेनोफॉस्फेट।
So she doesn't know what to do with all this.
ये जो जाते हैं गंगा जी में, तो ये गंगा के सफाई कर्मचारियों को मार देते हैं। उसके जो फिश हैं, जो टर्टल हैं, ये ख़त्म हो जाते हैं। तो रियल प्रॉब्लम is the modernization and urbanization and industrialization and technology. These are what are killing the Ganga. This is the way any river actually in the world dies.
Krishna ji, thank you so much. I think very insightful points. I think beautiful blend of science, spirituality, passion, caring and sensitivity. Thank you for bringing all that to our show. Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Gorakh ji.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
घट ही में गंगा राम, घट ही में गंगा राम, घट ही में जमुना राम, घट ही में गंगा राम, घट ही में गंगा राम, घट ही में जमुना राम, घटरी में तीरथ नहाया राम राम राम, घट ही में तीरथ नहाया राम राम राम, काची हो